Every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, every saint and sinner in the history of our species.
Good evening and welcome to Grange, Aston Martin. We've certainly got a brilliant turnout, so thank you very much for that. Apologies for the parking. I understand it's been a little bit difficult out there, but I'm sure we'll get everyone away. Before we get started, I'd just like to say thank you to Darren and his team from Bang & Olufsen Chelmsford. They're over in that corner. He is giving away a free Bang & Olufsen Bluetooth speaker tonight, so if you go and see him, he's just waving over there. So fill out some details and there's a chance, well not a chance, you will be winning a Bluetooth speaker. And we also have Nick Hobbis. He's over there. Nick does the badges, the enamel badges for the front and the rear of our Aston Martins. So he's got a full array of badges, very interesting, so see him. And I'd like to introduce Andy Burgess. Andy, pro driver and all-round product guru, and of course Darren Turner, who perhaps needs no introduction, but I will give him one. Darren is 3 times Le Mans winner and Aston Martin racing driver and also product tester. So first of all, Andy, if you could, I think it's fitting that before we unveil the Vantage here, the new Vantage, that we just tip our hat to the old outgoing Vantage. So perhaps you could tell us a little bit about the old car and what it meant to you. Thank you.
So good evening everybody, my name's Andy, one of the product specialists. As I say, Gavin just introduced me. I know you're itching to get around the car and look at the car, but before we do that, as I say, we're going to talk a little bit about the shoes that this car's got to fill. So who's a current Vantage owner here? Show of hands. Yes, we've got quite a few here. So that car has been our most successful car in the Aston Martin's history. Yeah, we have made 22,000 Vantages since it was designed way back, or shown way back in 2003, actually at the Detroit Motor Show. Henrik Fisker designed that car, and we launched the car in 2006 to a big world acclaim, and we haven't changed it too much in those 12 years. We've had some different engines, obviously from a 4.3 to a 4.7, a V12, we've had some roadsters, and it's done very well for us. Say 22,000 cars we've produced in Vantage. Now that is a big number for us as Aston Martin. It's not a big number for other manufacturers. So I think a couple of years back, Porsche made their millionth 911. So 22,000 Vantages is not a lot really. Only 5,000 of those are in the UK. So if you've got a Vantage, you've only got, it's 5,000 of those cars in the UK in that 12 years. So big shoes to fill. This is our second car in what we call our second century. The first car was our DB11. This is the second car, the new Vantage. And as I say, that old Vantage has done ever so well. So much so that last year, in the hands of this man here, Darren Turner, came and won Le Mans again. A 12-year-old car, 12-year-old design, and wins Le Mans and beats all of its rivals, which is quite something really. I think it's a big round of applause for that, I think. So I'm going to talk to you again in a moment, but I'm going to hand you over to Darren just now. So I'm going to bore you a little bit later on, so you haven't got rid of me just yet. So I'll hand you over to Darren because he's actually driven this car. He's driven the race car, and he's also driven the road car as well.
Hi, hello everyone. So I'm part of the Aston Martin Racing, one of the 3 drivers that was involved with the win last year at Le Mans. So for everyone who put their hands up early with the current Vantage, it's still definitely a winning car, and to us at Aston Martin Racing, it's a very special car. We've been racing it for the last 6 years in the World Endurance Championship, and it's been a real joy to drive that car. And we're now moving on with the race program with the new Vantage that you can see here. I've been lucky enough to test the new race car since August last year, but I've also been lucky enough to be involved with Matt Becker and the Vehicle Dynamics team at Gaydon to have some days in this car itself. So what can I say about it? It's a big step forward. Obviously, the engine itself has moved away from a normally aspirated V8 to a twin-turbo V8 from AMG, which has been tweaked by Aston Martin, giving a lot more horsepower and torque itself. But the driving characteristics, from a race driver's point of view, it's all about how the car feels. And we had a couple of days in Wales around the country lanes. There's not too many police around there, so we can really get to feel and experiment with the car itself, and some vigorous driving around those lanes. And it was a car that gave great sort of feedback, great confidence from pretty much the first time you sort of turn the wheel and pull out the car park and get travelling. So that was a real highlight for me about the difference between the current car and how much further this car's gone in development. But the big thing for us is what a car feels like on a racetrack, from a racing driver's point of view. And one of the nice things I got to do was to benchmark the current Vantage V12S around the Nordschleife circuit, which is one of the biggest circuits in the world. And then they asked me to go out and benchmark this car in its development phase. So it's the last iteration of that famous Vantage that we have at the moment, and the beginning of the development curve of this car. So it was a chance to sort of really benchmark and see exactly where the design team and the vehicle dynamics team have sort of pushed the envelope. And it wasn't a little bit quicker, it was a huge step in performance, and easier to drive as well. That was the thing that stood out for me, was around a very challenging circuit like the Nordschleife, is just how easy it was to find the limit and also to sort of enjoy the car and play with the car itself. So it's a big step forward. I think everyone who's going to get the chance to drive it, own it, to enjoy it, you'll see what a difference it is from the current Vantage itself. And it certainly put a big smile on my face, so I'm sure it'll do the same for all the new possible owners of the car. We've got a little video. It's a bit of a teaser about the car, and then me and Andy are going to whip the cover off, and you can get a tour with Andy about the car.
Thank you for that, Darren. Thank you. Yeah, you may need to turn around for this one. Okay, quite an impressive video, and apologies if there's any vegetarians out there. It's quite a hard-hitting video, but I think you'll agree it's quite a hard-hitting car. Over to Andy.
So, round of applause. So before we I'd just like to walk technical. Okay. This is what we call our hunter car, a predator car. Andy Palmer, our CEO, recently did a walk around and actually said it's down 911s and McLarens. That's what he said, which I thought was quite funny. But right from the front, it's much more aggressive. So it takes its look from. We've got our Vulcan, our track car, which costs £2 million. So you'll see the front grille is very much like the Vulcan. So our DB10. That's better. So also our DB10, our Spectre car, the James Bond car. You'll see the front light assembly, very much like that car. So it's a combination at the front of those two cars. Much more aggressive, much more assertive, much bigger grille. You'll notice straight away we've gone away from that 5-bar grille that you normally see on an Aston Martin to a big open mesh grille, which is going to allow more air to come into the car, because we need that air to cool this beautiful engine that's just under this lovely clamshell bonnet. We've got lots of aerodynamics in this car, okay, which you don't actually see. So underneath the car, we have a series of what we call fences, like a Venturi effect. So the front splitter here is splitting the air, stopping the air from going underneath. The air that does get underneath is then accelerated by these fences, if you like, and accelerates it through the back and gets rid of it as quick as it possibly can. And what that does is reduce the uplift and gives it more downforce. So we haven't gone for big spoilers, we haven't gone for big aggressive look on this car. It's got lots of downforce, but done very subtly in terms of design. Aston Martin are proud that what we do in design is everything has a consequence, everything has a purpose. So when we put a line on a car or a design on a car, it has a consequence, it has a purpose to it. We don't just put design on for design's sake. So this bonnet, as I say, this is what we call a clamshell bonnet made from aluminium. Comes right the way across from one side to the other, just like DB11 does. So what we do is we eliminate the shut lines. Yeah, so we get this lovely aspect across the front here that makes the car look wider. And then we've got this very subtle horseshoe power bulge, which is basically hiding this beautiful new 4-litre AMG engine. Now, it is an AMG engine, we take it from AMG, but then we Astonize it. And what we mean by that is it produces 503 horsepower, or 510 PS, depending on how you calculate your horsepower. But the big thing is the torque, okay? So people get hooked up on BHP a little bit too much. Its torque is the thing that gives us that acceleration feel and gives us that 0 to 60 time that we're all craving for. So the torque on this car is more than any other car in its class. It's more than the McLaren 540, more than the Porsche 911, and more than the AMG engine that we take it from. Yeah, the Mercedes we take it from. So it produces 685 Newton meters of torque, which is only 15 less than our V12 twin turbo DB11, yeah, from a V8 engine. So that propels it 0 to 60 seconds, and a top speed, if you can find a place, maybe in Wales, of 195 miles an hour. So this is, again, real class leading stuff we've produced here. So, coming down the side of the car, you'll see that we haven't got a side strake on the car. We've done away with that, and what we have is what we call a side gill. And just like our video showed you, yeah, it's like a shark that breathes through its side gills. This is doing the same thing. This is extracting air from the wheel arch here. So when you're going at high speed, there's a build-up of pressure here, of air, which is giving a lift at the front, which we don't want. So any proper racing car you ever care to look at, that'd be a Vulcan or the car the other side of that wall, will always have what we call a vented front arch, trying to take the air from this wheel arch and extract it. And that is what the side gill is doing. Also, it's taking air, hot air, you see there's no vents on the bonnet, from the engine bay and putting it down the side of the car, which is better for aero, because hot air is less dense, so it's better for aerodynamics. Also, you'll notice there's no piece of trim through the top of the door here. So we're one of the first manufacturers to do this. Lots of people are starting to copy this now. We're actually taking the strip and we're putting it down the side here, so you don't actually see it on the top. So you've got a much better, cleaner look from the body to the glass area. So we come through the back of the car, much more aggressive at the rear. You've got this signature tail light cluster and this very, very aggressive rear diffuser. So this is the first time again on an Aston Martin we've got a rear diffuser that actually does something. This is creating 100 kilos of rear downforce. And you'll notice if you look underneath, there's some little fins at the bottom here, which is stopping the air coming off the back of the wheels and interfering with this mouth here, which is what's extracting the air. Okay? Never seen that on an Aston before, and the aero guys tell us that this is actually a proper working rear diffuser. First, again, for Vantage, is we've got an electronic differential in this car as well. So we've got all that torque, and we've got to put it down onto the road. So electric differential does that for us, but also the chassis itself is a much more rigid and chassis than the previous car. One of the reasons why we won Le Mans last year is we have a chassis, a bonded chassis in our current Vantage, which is incredibly rigid, doesn't flex, and that's one of the good bases of any sports car or race car. So this is about 20% stiffer again than that previous Vantage that we're saying goodbye to. So as Darren said, he's driven the car, it's very quick, straight out the box, and that's down to probably that chassis that we're talking about just then. that extra rigidity. So, interior of the car as well. There's no point in having a sports car if you can't use it. So what we're telling people is you can actually put 2 sets of golf clubs in the back of this car. So when you go golfing, or you want to go to the south of France, or you want to, I don't know, go on a long weekend, you can use this car because it's got 50 litres more boot space. And also the cockpit itself is totally different to our current Vantage. It's more of what we call a cockpit feel. It's more of a fighter jet feel, and everything surrounds you. And also within the door area as well, there's more sculpture, which gives you a little bit more elbow room. So I think that's enough from me, okay? I think we'll let you loose on the car. We're going to move these lights away so you don't trip over them. So please, help yourself, undo the car, sit in the car, whatever you want to do. If you have any questions, just come and see us as the night goes on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, every saint and sinner in the history of our species.